Thank you for tuning in to the Grand Solar Minimum. From time to time on GSM, we love to highlight unique and original channels who are rolling their sleeves up and showing people concepts that help them prepare, thrive, and adapt in our changing climate. This channel stood out to me because of her mindset. She combats fear that surrounds this topic with her humble honesty and fearlessness. I would like to introduce to you Kate Hart, the Radical Gardener. How are you today, Kate?
I'm good. It's really nice to be here. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much for coming on GSM.
How you doing? Nice to meet you.
Hi.
You know, I've been watching your channel. You started your channel up about 3 weeks ago. I think I stumbled upon her channel, was it like a week ago? Or
week
even
or
a
so.
week and a half ago. And I'm just like,
week, or over a week.
thank God you are here. I just love your personality and what you bring to the Grand Solar Minimum community. I think you have a lot to offer. You're just starting off as a channel, but from what I've seen, I'm so excited to see where your garden goes when the snow thaws. You know, you have, and I just adore and love your house. I'm always telling Jake, I wish my kitchen could look like yours.
I promised her the next time we remodel, she gets to do her kitchen like yours. So
it is so cool. So first, I'd like to ask you, what tipped you into the topic? How did you sort of stumble upon finding out about the Grand Solar Minimum?
Well, I always I pay attention to weather because I'm a gardener, and you know, this isn't a very scientific answer, but my mother was an astrologer, but she was a really good one. It's what's called traditional astrology. Like today, there's probably only 100 of them in the world. It's the type of astrology that, like Nostradamus, and really the kind of astrology that was being done in the 1600s. Very difficult. You have to be very, very smart. It's not just an artful approach to astrology, but a very technical one. You have to be both. And I think there's just thousands of rules that you have to commit to memory along with, you know. So she was, you know, right on. And so from the time I was 12 years old, my mother talked about 2017, 2018, not just in regards to weather, but also 2017, which a lot of people don't know, it's almost identical in planetary placement of the time of 1776. And so, which is like Civil War, which we're seeing. Of course, Civil War looks very different now. It's being fought on the media, but it's, you know, it's Civil War, and the little guy wins, right? But it's in the context of like what was going on at that time and what's going to go on now. And again, it's a repeatable cycle. So, you know, people like you or like the other channels that are more science-based than I am, we're coming to the same conclusion. And I just stumbled across all these different channels, and I've been watching them for months. And but along with that, I was watching other channels that, you know, we're just covering all kinds of different things, and there just didn't seem to be a rational voice, and it was driving me nuts. And I just kept saying, I need my own YouTube channel. I need my own YouTube channel. I can't take this anymore. I need to have my say on this, because I knew that I could come in without that fear, you know. So I gave you a really long answer, but that really I've just always known. So I've been prepping off and on for years as I could afford it.
You know, your reason for coming into the community, when I first started learning about this, I was fortunate. The person that taught me was a solar expert, so he understood the science part. So that's why my old habits are to watch certain things like solar wind, coronal holes, sunspots, that nature, just because I had a lot of help understanding what all that, you know. But I was with you as far as like the rational speaking voice of just let's report it, let's talk about it as it happens, and you know, let's try to keep integrity with what we talk about. I'm like with the whole fear thing, it's sometimes you have to watch what you talk about scientifically because it sounds worse than what it really is. It's like when you look up a symptoms online of a medical problem and you read, oh my God, I might have cancer, and then you go to the doctor and find out it wasn't really as bad as you thought. And that's kind of with the Grand Solar Minimum. You have to be careful on how you deliver the information.
Well,
Also receive it.
and the thing is, grand solar minimum isn't an opinion; it's a fact. We know
Right.
it's a fact,
Right.
right? So, we know that. But then what happens is then, as individuals, people start to carry their opinions around. So opinions are fine, but they're not ideas.
Right.
And so that's the difference. Like everybody's got an opinion. That's fine. We're human beings. We should have loads of them. So, but what's the idea? That's what really leads to any kind of solutions, right? The ideas. I go, great. Okay, so what's your idea? What do we do? What's the solution? I'm a very solution. That's my whole thing. Yeah, okay, this doesn't feel good. Let's find a solution. Let's move on. So I just, and because a lot of these channels are talking about solutions, but they're not taking it all the way to who's really out here. We're talking about inner cities. Yes. We're talking about neighborhoods. We're talking about people that live in apartments. What the hell? You're telling them, wow, look at this, this thermal greenhouse. Well, yeah, I'd love to have a thermal greenhouse, but it isn't going to happen in my backyard. So, I mean, it's like, whoa, what can we do? Well, you can do a lot. Right now, let's just talk about that they don't have any money. That's a fact,
Number one problem.
Right? So you don't have any money and you don't have the knowledge. So you got to, it's like, whoa, we got to step it back here a little bit. Let's start right at the bottom here and let's talk about how you grow something, where you can grow it, why you need to have food there. Maybe it'll just be sprouts. Maybe every time you go to the grocery store, you can buy an extra bag of dried beans, stop at the hardware store and throw it into a bucket and seal it as you fill up. It's like I knew that there needed to be a voice about how do you do this in a step-by-step way,
Exactly. And, that's exactly what I've been working on with the grandsolarminimum.com, trying to have a place for a community, because it seems to me like there's information everywhere and then people are scattered everywhere. There's people that always ask me, where to move to. Yeah. And, I honestly, my stance is like, you just have to have faith in the unknown. And just trust in your own abilities to navigate through it. Now, some people will slap me up and say that's irresponsible or whatever, but to me, it's not. It's just, you do have to have a certain amount of faith in the unknown, and you also have to be smart to know your resources and learn from others. And that's why I, through brainstorming, was trying to figure out how can we get all these people that want to learn, discuss, plan, how to adapt and thrive. How do we do that? And that's why I'm trying to get this website going with the forum so people like you and others can sort of share their ideas and, the good information that they have. I mean, I think everyone, and, from last year, the community's grown. A lot of people are creating channels and sharing their information and, are very excited. But it's hard to find channels now that really want to get into the thinking part of it, sharing the ideas and, finding solutions going forward instead of just looking at it happen and just have your wheels spinning and not going anywhere, not preparing. So it's really great and refreshing for me to see a channel like you come up and show people your basement with your grow lights and how, what you plan to do and, to see someone actually doing something and preparing. So I just applaud you for doing that. It's not easy having a YouTube channel and starting out. So, I've seen you, I've watched all your videos and seen you grow from week 1 to where you are now. And I know,
Let's not mention the first week. Well,
very excited.
Thank you so much. Well, I think it's even more than faith in the unknown, if I may. I think that as long as we're really living in right here, right now. I mean, you can't do anything about 5 minutes ago or 5 minutes in the future. You can't do a damn thing about any of it, and it might all change within a minute. And if you've lived long enough, you understand that everything can change in the next 5 minutes. So why even bother? And the more that you're in right here, right now, the more that you're living more in a solution, in based environment, right? So the minute you get out of the now, that's where fear kicks in, because its ego now is taken over, and it's like, oh my gosh, I don't have enough of this. And I even find it happening to me. I mean, as we get closer to it, there's this kind of, let's see, we're part of this collective consciousness, and you can feel it coming if you're paying attention, right? And it's like, oh my God, do I really have enough of this? And I go, wait, stop, we're good, And when you're as old as me, life teaches you that no matter how difficult things may be or get, somehow it seems to work out if you're paying attention and you're not afraid. If you're afraid, there's no solutions there. Now, easier said than done. So, again, if you've got, and this is where I think I can really make a difference. You've got someone that's living in the inner city, and they go to the grocery store, which is a food desert anyway, right? I mean, I live in Detroit. That's how it works. Well, I don't live in Detroit. I live north of Detroit. But you go in and, and those will be the grocery stores that won't have the food first, right? So now what do they do? What do they do? I mean, they haven't got a garden. They haven't even thought about it. They're just trying to get through the day. So what are they going to do? So that's why I just wish we could just get this information out faster and say, listen, you can do this. Go get some mason jars. You can do some. So I'm dealing with that tomorrow, that whole subject on how you can, grow with not very much. But it's like, these people, there's no food there now, right?
Yeah.
So, we can be really cavalier and say, oh, yeah, well, I'm going to go get some land and everything. Well, I got news for you, Charlie. These people here, they're stuck. They're not going anywhere, And, and even for us, and I talk about this all the time, we bought a tiny piece of land. And believe me, it was a financial stretch for us. It's a quarter of an acre. And so I think about it, how can we prepare? And, at some point we're going to have to leave. I'm in a very, it might not be the most optimum situation, because like I think I said today or yesterday, everybody around here knows I've got food. They know I have a garden. And, when someone who may be your neighbor, who's friendly and sweet and wonderful, if their kids start going hungry, now we're talking about a whole nother human being.
And that's where, Mari and I have had discussions here too, like especially throughout 2017 and really so far early. It seems like 18 is happening really fast, but
yeah,
with the way the weather's changing and some of the storms that we're seeing now, and Mari and I have got a pretty good prep to get started, for a few months. But we really need to start getting in gear about making resources now, instead of what we have to live off of for a little while with rations and whatnot. But we really do have to start kicking in gear. And watching channels like you with the indoor growing, Ice Age Farmer also had a little operation with aquaponics. Unfortunately, he had someone who sabotaged the entire operation.
He did not, really?
Oh, it was awful. He was out of the country. I don't know what for, but when he came back, his aquaponics system had been totally destroyed. Everything that he had worked for over the past year had just went down the toilet. So
oh my
I know
gosh, he's such a sweet guy. I can't even imagine that.
Yeah, it's somebody obviously personal out there, but that's a lot of work. And so the reason why we don't see those videos now is because he's restarting everything, and this is probably during the stage of where it's kind of boring. There's not a lot happening, but he was 9-10 months into the whole grow operation, and plants were very full and healthy. And
we had him on our channel when he only had 25 subs at the time.
Something like that.
When we had him, and I saw him, and I'm like, he had this whole aquaponic system, and he was doing
that
educational
offers a solution.
Information on how he was doing it, what kind of nutrients he was planting, and I just found that part of his channel fantastic. Yep. So I'm looking forward to seeing more of that from him this year. When you talk about your neighbors and all that, I think that's something society has sort of taken for granted. Modern society has taken so much for granted. we have to start building communities in our own neighborhoods to try
Well,
to strengthen things.
that is easier said than done.
I
mean,
know.
Yeah.
let me tell you, and I already knew, and I talked about this in one of my, my channels, but and my gut was telling me this is not going to go well. I mean, I'd already, like I said, I'm already thought of as like, the bohemian, old hippie that was, and I don't really care, but, so, and I called the library, I booked a time, and I could tell just by his reaction that he thought it was a little wacky. I said, I'd like to talk about the upcoming, and I kept it really, real light. I said, with the colder temperatures, and we've got these solar minimums coming up, and I'd really like to talk about the neighborhood and how we can prep, because I can see where our neighborhood, our town, which is Berkeley, Michigan, a sweet little city, and how we could have a couple greenhouses, we could really take care of ourselves, and it's so doable, right? We're talking 10,000 people, no problem. We could do this. We could do this in 6 months if we all come together, right? So I've got the whole pie in the sky thing. I know this can happen, and or that we have a warehouse, and then we figure out how many meals we need for, say, a couple of years per family, how many people are there. It's also doable. And so then I posted on the neighborhood list, with the grand solar minimum, and if you want to talk about the upcoming weather and the challenges and how we can prep and be a community, and many replies that were really pretty smart-assy, but the one that really stood out was, he says, well, as long as the Meijer is open, I'm sure we're fine. And I think, you know what? Fine, go to Meijer. So, believe me, that would be that guy that said that would be first knocking on my door. Yeah. And here's the thing, I would gladly feed everybody if I had the food and I could afford it.
Right.
But I don't. And that's why I want us to prepare as a community. So what I see is, putting my house up for sale, which, believe me, kills me. But I'm being called to do that, is putting my house up for sale and just going to, a smaller community where I have a chance to be a part of a smaller community.
I mean, that is the sad truth. We live in Buffalo, New York, of course, very urban. I don't really foresee me sticking it out for more than a few more years, honestly, if that. Just because I don't want, if we already have the foresight as to what's happening, why make it harder on ourselves?
Yeah,
to try
that's
to,
right.
Be
That's
that
right.
resilient and try
That's
to
right.
as well.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
we're already looking at different places going south. I've had my struggles in Buffalo owning properties with floods and everything this year.
Yeah, this
just
year.
like
And,
ready to go now, but
and we know this is just the beginning. Solar cycle 25 really kicks off this minimum, and that's in 2019 with solar cycle 25.
Is it 2019? I was wondering when it was. Yeah.
So if this is the prelude, if this is the appetizer, I don't want any of the main course, honestly.
No, I know.
And 2024 with the Milankovitch cycle, that really, that's a lot of question marks as well. How much colder can we get before?
Right. And nobody's what's really, gosh, it's just so sad. Really, is that I can't figure out why people that I really think are very smart and really trend oriented, that have their eye on future trends and what have, like Joe Salante, is really a smart guy, and and Cliff High, he is talking about the Ice Age, and he has off and on over the years, but it's kind of this soft sell. And they're not really talking about it. When they're talking about the future of the finances of this country and everything, how could they be good if we don't have any food and people can't afford to buy it? I can't figure out how the economy would be good at all. The economy is based on what's available, and if things aren't available at all, I can't see that there's going to be any kind of an economy. So it's like living in an upside down world. I can't figure out why people aren't talking about it. And listen, I'm as interested as everybody else in what's going on. I think there's some really incredible things going on right now. We're really waking up. I love it. but we're not talking about food. We're just not talking about it. And like I said in my video, hey, I got news for you. You're not going to care what Q has to say if you've got nothing in your fridge. It's going to make it all feel like nonsense when you can't eat. So we better reset our priorities. But it's always, I've always seen most of my life just by being kind of a keen observer that people have their priorities really screwed up. What is important? And I've always thought, first start with the basics, and then let's go from there. I don't care about cryptocurrency. I don't care about gold. I don't care about silver. I don't care. What I care about, like, do you have good soil? Do you know how to grow something? To me, that's really useful information. I just don't get it. I don't get where, why all the dialogue about things that are not going to help us move forward.
No, and you hit the nail with cryptocurrency. The market's doing so well and stuff like that. And what scares me the most is when people like the owner of Amazon, who's the richest man known right now, and he buys up the largest organic food company. Well, why do you think he's doing that? He knows what's coming up. He knows he's going to control prices on produce now. And that's the type of thing that we're against. People who are opportunists, they know that there's going to be a higher demand and the market's going to be super high for prices when it comes to eating produce.
Yeah.
Not now, not next year, but in the near future.
No, yeah, it will be. Yeah. So, when you look at, I think it was when there was a regime change, it was in Russia, when Gorbachev, when he, and, those people would have starved. I mean, when Russia tanked, the reason they didn't is everybody had a freaking garden.
Yeah.
That's what fed them. And, if you didn't have a backyard, you had something growing on your porch, you're growing lettuce, you're growing something. And they know how to cook. I mean, so, I just ordered, pounds of, I think 40 pounds of cornmeal to make like flatbread. And then I downloaded a couple easy recipes, because I don't eat wheat, I don't eat grains, so, but, a lot of people do, I just don't. So I thought, well, what do I eat, and so I ordered that. So that'll last me a long time. So it's just those kinds of things where we have to really focus on what do we eat and what can we have around. So listen, it can be as simple as this. You can have buckets of dried beans and you can have buckets of rice and you can live on that. Yeah. And it's and if you want to, want some of your greens, go to a farmer's feed store, go to a feed store and buy yourself 2 huge sacks of alfalfa. And now you're fine. That's all it is. Have some water and you're good to go. That's as simple as it can be, right? Am I wrong?
Well, no, I'm sitting here thinking to myself, like, can you imagine what the average person who doesn't follow this topic is thinking right now, hearing you say a bucket of beans and rice? What is she talking about? I'm going to Texas Roadhouse tonight and get me a steak and a baked potato.
You know what? Have your steak
those days
tonight.
Are going to disappear.
That's right.
And I know that sounds really like that's a bold statement to make, but it is a reality.
Well, you know what really ruined it is a wolf has been cried too many times. And so that the Y2K thing, that really soured people because people really bought into that was going to be, weird. And a couple of things have happened where they've been warned, that, okay, it's going to be really, and then let's not forget they've been told global warming.
Right.
Now, no, global cooling. So why are they going to believe anything? Well, here's the thing about belief systems is I believe a lot of things, but I understand I may not believe them tomorrow. And if you don't understand that beliefs are fluid and that you may not know anything at all, ever, and you just move from one belief system to the next, to me, I'm very comfortable with that. So believe me, what I thought 2 weeks ago about a lot of things, because things are changing so much and so fast, what I believed 2 weeks ago, I don't believe right now. And, people like that, I can't even imagine how difficult it must be to hang on to a belief system right now. And the ones that are are going to be, they're going to be zombies this year. They're going to be zombies because what they believed was true is not true. And it will only continue. So you better get a fluidity to your thinking and start moving in that way. But the minute you believe something, you're stuck.
You've hit the nail on the head. When something like this is going to occur, world government, world leaders, really anybody in a society, they want people who are going to roll their sleeves up and be self-reliant. Those people who are going to sit around and wait for the government to come knock on their door and help them and feed them when they're hungry and keep them warm when they're cold, that's not simply going to happen. So, to me, it's one of those, we can give all the advice in the world, but it's a matter of you wanting to actually take initiative for yourself to start doing it. Because knowing how to do it is one thing, but like I said, we've done a look in the mirror test for ourselves. We really have thought about how we're going to start producing alternative heating and how we're going to start growing. We've picked out a spot in our yard this spring. So, Mari and I are going to start until we get into a different location, because I want the practice now. That way when we move to a better climate, because even if we do live in a warmer climate, like say Tennessee or Georgia, I still think we're going to have food issues with so much of the area not being able to grow anymore. We're still going to need to keep those skills sharpened. So I want to be in practice now. That way when I get to an area where it's going to thrive, my family's not going to go hungry.
Yeah, my Facebook page, what I do is every day, and I grab a lot of it from Heimer, how he posts his videos, and I grab about 4 of his postings about things that are going on around the world, and then I put them on my Facebook one at a time, and what I say is, have you gone grocery shopping yet? Have you planned yet? Have you done this? How far ahead can your food take you? Every day I do that. Now, here's the good news. There's people that are actually listening. Is it everybody? Absolutely not. Is it a very small percentage? Yes. But the people that are supposed to hear it will hear it. And if we worry about, and I think I might have mentioned this, but if we keep if we keep pushing a message onto people that don't want to hear it, and you'll know as soon as you look them in the eye, you can tell they do not want to hear this. If you keep pushing that onto them, you're the one that gets sick, not them. You're the one that gets stressed out. And I had mentioned it's very hard on the deliverer of the message. It's actually really hard on your kidneys because it's very emotional, and you're really invested in it, and you really want the best for people. And when they're not taking that information, it really takes you down. And that's one of the things that we have to really be mindful of, is that there is going to be a degradation of health. And it's going to be from many different levels. It's going to be because lack of food or lack of nutrition, but it's going to be stress related. And, and it's also going to be because people are going to be being given information, especially about the underbelly of the government, that's going to start being revealed. And I'm not going to go into that, because it's not, but you know what I mean.
Oh yeah.
When that stuff starts getting revealed, all that darkness, how do you think the regular, mom and pop that are raising their kids and want them to go to college, how do you think they're going to react? They're going to be zombies. And now they don't have enough food for their kids, and their government's been lying to them. And how are they going to deal? And I'm telling you, they're not going to be able to deal. So unless we get more people like me and like you and all these other people that are speaking in a rational way, they're in trouble, And I would like everybody to get it, because the more people that are on board with us, the safer it is for me.
Yeah, even just sharing videos and sharing content on Twitter, and I'm like crazy with Twitter and Facebook, getting the word out, constantly banging your drum and getting that exposure to the topic out there is so important. I think the interviews we do with like Valentina Zarkova and John Casey, like they're real eye-openers for people that are new to the topic. But even our channel, I'm really into breaking down the scientific papers and trying to understand them, and then, you know, having Jake put out videos breaking them out into layman's terms so people, because no one's going to want to read these scientific papers.
I still don't think I'm getting enough layman's terms on these papers.
I mean, it's hard to break them down.
People get to read the paper on their own time, so I think that's why they like that.
I mean, the once, I think the more proof we put out there, people are going to realize, listen, you've been manipulated into a thought that is a lie, a hoax for a political agenda, essentially.
Yeah, it's and you know, and there's nothing really that we can do about that. It's because people don't really nice people don't believe that a government or other people would be that mean. You know, I mean, you know, they don't understand that someone really doesn't care about them, because
it's happening right now. It's happening right now.
Yeah, it's happening right now. So, you know, it's like, you know, and I'll just grab this. I hate to even bring this up, but here's one of the topics. Okay, so let's talk about the chemtrail thing. This is why it never gains any traction, because no one can really believe that they're being sprayed. You know, so they keep asking the same question, and they keep saying, well, why would they do that? Well, why would they do that? And I'm going, hey, that's not the right question. It's never going to get answered. It's like, how come you haven't known? How come you're putting up with it? You know, I mean, it's like, don't keep asking, why would they do that? There's no answer to that. There's no answer to that.
But at the same time, with that topic, I think, you know, the technology with geoengineering is out there and real, but at the same time, it's been sort of, you know, blown out of proportion, the truth and the amount that it's actually used. That's from my studies.
I am absolutely believe you too. And there's and I talked about that. Here's what happens when you get caught up in a cause. And this is everything, you know, everything that everybody's talking about now. You know, there's a million causes out here. When you start to get into it, you start to become, it looks like, most of the deliverers of this information are victimized by it. So now, when you're a victim, forget that, Charlie Brown. You're going nowhere. That's the same thing. That's fear. And if you're a victim, then, you know, first of all, what's your part in it? We're all in this together. You think that just happened and we had nothing to do with it? We're all in this collective consciousness together. And we all must have thought we needed to have this experience. And when we don't need to have this experience anymore, guess what? It won't be happening anymore. So that's really hard for people to take on, you know, but I know that's true. You know, that we're here for the experience. That's it. There's nothing else. And once we're done with that experience, it's like, you know why most wars stop? Is because people are tired of fighting. That's why they stop.
With you know, people like especially like the chemtrails, people want to latch on to an answer, I find, just to have it so they can explain something that they don't understand. You know, they see something in the, you know, the sky like chemtrails. There's also a lot of atmospheric changes that are coming with this grand solar minimum that people are seeing that are being blamed on chemtrails. And when you try to explain to people, hey, you know, have you heard, you know, or have you read about our atmosphere is thickening, our, you know, temps are dropping, we are actually cooling, the hot exhaust from the planes do actually cause some of the contrails and stuff. Because to me, I think, especially on YouTube, the whole chemtrail topic's out of control. It's
out of control. And I, you know, I mean, it's so nutty that even when, like, I had posted a picture, I mean, the skies were so blue yesterday, it was just, I couldn't believe how beautiful it was. And I posted it, and so people couldn't accept it. They would say things like, well, they'll spray tonight, or they're just spraying in the evening. I go, no, you don't get it. No, the sky hasn't been this blue in a long time. I don't. this is amazing. This is great stuff. So even when there's a light there, they're so invested, and this is victimization. They're so invested in the victimization of it all, and they're so cause oriented, and it's been their reason for being for so long that they can't snap out of it. So there's nothing I can do about that. What I can do is just be as rational and dig in for as much wisdom as I possibly can muster, and just keep giving a rational point of view. I keep it as apolitical as I can, believe me, which is difficult because,
Sure.
again, I have lots and lots of opinions. It's just that's not the channel for it.
Right.
But it's just, here's an even, easy place to be, and I deliver it. And I know you know this, it almost makes me cry. I deliver that with as much love as I can put through that little tiny camera. I mean, when I'm done doing those, a lot of times I'm in tears because I'm giving as much of my heart as I can, because I really do love who's in this with me. We're in this together. And if we don't understand that, oh my God, we just don't have any hope. But I do think we understand that. And I do think that's why people are responding to the channel, and it feels like a breath of fresh air, because someone's saying, listen, we're in this together. I love you. And look, all these great solutions just in 2 weeks we've come up with. Aren't we great? Aren't we wonderful? Look at our spirit. Wow, there's, you can't kill us. We're amazing. We're never going to give up, and we can do this together, so come on, let's do it. Or you can sit around and go, oh my God, they're spraying again. Oh my God, they're doing this. And oh my God, you know what? Screw that. Let's just move on. Let's be in community. Let's find solutions. Now I have a lot of solutions for our health, for the whole atmospheric thing. And that we'll talk on the phone when I've got that all together, and I'll let you know what that all is. And then we'll really put it out there, but it will protect people and it'll protect our food.
Yeah, when it comes to the arguing, whether, it's global cooling or global warming, you can't deny that something's happening, something's
Right.
drastic, and society and mass should pay attention, regardless of, hot or cold. Our climate is changing. Please prepare your children's futures.
Yeah, that's right.
And set the foundation now, because it's going to take this is something that people can't just snap into. It's something you have to learn and educate yourself. Same with the chemtrails. What are you going to do if they're real or not? Look at the future and try to just do the best you can. I mean, that's all we can really ask for.
Yeah, and the messages that get delivered with these things, I had seen an interview. It really pissed me off. But I saw an interview, and it was with one of the lead guys in the chemtrail world. And I don't really pay attention to that world because I just don't. I mean, I just don't. So anyways, so I heard him say, he was asked, is it too late? He goes, yes, it's too late. What? How's this? What? And I'm like, I got news for you, Charlie Brown. The earth is going to heal itself long after you're here. You're not even going to be a memory, and how dare you put that message out there? But I'm telling you what, it gives his cause and his life and his world some sort of meaning. And why is he even bothering? If it's past that, then go home. Why are you even talking about this stuff?
Exactly.
And I heard somebody else say, I'm sorry, I'm repeating myself because it was in a video, but I heard another woman who's, she travels all over the world and talks about it, and she said, we better hurry up. Now, this is all that fear mongering. We better hurry up because we're running out of time. And I go, well, whose time? Your time? My time? Is there divine time, God time, the planet's time, consciousness time? Whose time are you talking about? Be specific. How do you know? What do you know? What do you know that I don't know? So I mean, it's those kind of offhanded remarks that send people into a real fear. Okay, here we are again. We're in fear, and what are we going to do about it? Nothing, because you're afraid. You're just victimized. You're afraid. And I say, okay, let's just stay in the moment, and things will be solvable in the moment, but not with fear mongering.
No, not at all. We've been in the GSM community and other communities as well to know that it's easy to. Let's just say there's a lot of people who have a lot of negative comments to make about whatever topic it is you speak. You just have to be pretty much willing enough to just not putting any energy in towards it. You were talking about how you give as much love as possible through that little camera when you send out your message, and that's all you can do. You can't help people that don't want to be helped. And I used to be that kind of guy that would debate the grand solar minimum with someone who is global warming, and I would go back and forth with them. And now it's like, okay, look,
oh no, you gotta
I'm not here to debate this anymore. I'm here to educate to people who want to learn about the grand solar minimum, who want to learn about the climate. If you don't agree with me, that's fine. You don't have to, but I don't have time to debate everybody who is against global cooling. That's not what we're here for. We're not here to debate. We are presenting real evidence. We are presenting real papers. We are talking to real scientists about this, and we're getting real people involved now, and this is a reality. This is not just some hoax made up on YouTube.
Well, nobody learns anything by someone else telling them.
No.
The way that you learned it is by discovery. And that's how I learned it. As I learned things by discovery. I mean, I found all these channels by researching. And then when I started, I don't know who I started. I think I started with Mr. I always call him Mr. BB, Mr. MB333. So he was one of the people I was listening to, and then somehow, how you let YouTube go, and then all of a sudden I was on like Dutch Sense, and all of a sudden I was rolling. All of a sudden I was on Oppenheimer, right? You know how that happens. And when I got onto the Oppenheimer channel, I went, whoa, what is this? And then I started watching it. Then I saw your channel, and I saw the Ice Age, and I was going, whoa, this is happening. I knew something was happening, but I had, I was looking at graphs. And I was looking at, and I'm like, wow. So it's meaningful to me because I went through a discovery process, And as I saw that, I go, well, maybe I should read that paper. And so, one of these channels, one of you guys would post a paper, and I'd read it, and I go, oh my God, And so it's meaningful to me because it was my process. But somebody else has to go through it too, and it will never mean to them what it's meant to me unless they go through that process. It's rare. Let me just say it's rare. I have a couple of friends that actually really believed me, and they changed a lot of things in their life because they believed me. And then they started to watch the same things I was watching. And I got a girl, she is rocking and rolling. She took it on, and she says, I believe this, and this is how. So you know what? Yay.
Yeah. And Mari mentioned earlier too that this is more about our children's future, and really that's
right.
That's what me and you and other channels are trying to do right now. We have. I don't believe that in our lifetime, maybe towards the end of my lifetime and Mari's lifetime, and maybe I don't know if we're going to actually get to see the full-on glaciation.
It'll be happen. The 20-year-old, the people that are 20 now. It'll be that generation. I'll tell you why.
That's the generation I'm worried the most about, because that's the generation to right now that appears to be the most entitled.
No, don't. I'll tell you why I know that's not true. Because I teach, and I teach a lot of young people. And so we're talking about the people that are around 16, 17, 15, 12 to 16 right now. Those are the ones.
Right.
Those are the ones. And first of all, you've got to have energy to really change the world. And, I mean, like I said, I'm going to be 70 in a couple of years. I'm running out of some.
I was guessing 50.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Unreal. You look great.
But the energy is what's really needed to really facilitate change,
yes.
Right? And you hear them talk, and they don't believe anybody, which is great. So they're already starting to think, right? So I mean, the students I got from 12 to 16 are more open to all of this than anybody after that, age-wise. So they came. Remember, we all came here to be a part of it. They came here to change it. And they're here for it, and so they're going to do remarkable things. I have no doubt. So whatever kid is entitled, that's okay. That's part of the learning process.
I wouldn't say I'm not worried about the teenagers, the early 16-year-olds to 20-year-olds, but I've seen a lot of working in the physical labor world myself. I am concerned about your mid-20-year-olds, your early 30-year-olds. There's a lot of people out there who don't, like you and I grew up in probably a lot stricter household than a lot of these kids grow up in today, so they don't know the value of working for something or hard work for something. And that's those are the people that I'm most worried about, is when they get to my age and older, how are they going to be able to survive for themselves?
Right. And, and I'll put to you, don't worry, because they're here playing out what they need to learn and what their experience is. And, and that is what it is. So they're here playing their part. We all got onto the same freeway, just everybody came on a different entrance ramp. Right. And so it's just wherever you are on that freeway, but we're on the same freeway. And so, I mean, I can't imagine. I mean, I couldn't have had a cell phone when I was 15. I don't know about you, but there was no disposable income in my house. None. Zero. And so I don't know how anybody has a cell phone at that age and can afford it. I mean, I don't get it. And then you just think about like all the sports they play and that they pay for sports. We didn't pay for sports in school. So, I mean, it's like, once all that money it disappears, which will, because money's going to go to whatever food there is, that's going to change some things. Now, either they're going to think they're so entitled and they should just go take somebody else's food. There'll be a lot of that. But then, a lot of times through crisis, people wake up. And that's where they start their spiritual development, right? So I'm not worried. It's just like they're here playing their part just like the rest of us are.
You said, I got to get your link to your blog. I caught a video of you reading from your blog, an expert, and you put, replace opinions with ideas. And I just love that quote from you. So we'll put that link in the description below so people have access to your blog as well. But we're going into what? It's about an hour. So, I don't know how you want to, wrap this up. What's the moral of our story?
Let's all
end with a...
I'd like to hear her answer what you hope to accomplish and what your channel's main message is, basically. Like, what... you're here, you're not playing around. You don't come off to me as someone who is taking this lightly. You're coming off as someone who cares, but also wants to really, like we talked earlier about the delivery of the message. What would you like to accomplish with your channel?
Wow. I instantly go into this kind of humble thing, and I'm like, I don't know.
You are. Like, that's
your
what
voice
I
of
love
reason, though.
about
your
you.
Voice of reason.
You're humble, you're honest, and you have that love. Your energy goes through the electronics and out into the screen, because I'm very sensitive to that, and I feel I feel you, like, big time. And I know, like, you are such an asset to this community because of that energy you carry with you, and that knowledge, and that faith and hope in mankind is going to do this, and we're going to fight through it, and we're going to be able to prepare and adapt. The way I envision, the way you envision, we'll be able to do it in the end.
Well, I guess what I want to accomplish is I want to bring information, but I want to do it within the community where we're all collectively sharing information so that we can thrive through this. But I want to be a calm, rational, loving voice. And no matter what happens, to just be able to show people how to live in the center of it all. in the center of the madness, there's love and there's light and there's collectiveness and there's goodness, and to not panic. And I want to be one of those voices.
And that's super important to the community, and it's so good to have you take that ambition. And it's nerve-wracking when you first put your first YouTube video out and getting exposure and, worrying what people think and everything. And I'm just so excited to watch where your channel goes. And I can't wait for it to warm up so I can see what you can do with that garden. So, we're going to put your channel link in the description, and we'll post your blog in the description. You send me any links you want, and I'll put it in the description for our viewers to take a look at. So with that, I want to thank you for coming on Grand Solar Minimum. Probably have you on again as, time evolves. So again, thank you. Jake, you want to?
Nope, thanks again for joining with us. It was a pleasure meeting and
my
talking
pleasure.
to you as well.
My love to you both, and let's just hang in there together. But I just give you my heart. Thank you so much.
Sounds
Awesome.
good.
Thank
All
you
right.
very much.
Thanks again.
Okay.